It's so late. It's early. It comes all the way back around. 3:30 a.m. in the Mile High City. 2:30 a.m. in the Pacific time zone as I record this. Denver football after dark. The good, the bad, and the ugly of the Broncos' first preseason game. The good, the score, 30-9. The guy you see on the right there, Trent Sherfield, just does good things whenever he's out there. The guy who threw him the 36-yard touchdown pass, that of course being Jarrett Stidham. Plenty of other good. The bad, the defense early on that first possession. The ugly, you'd have to say 11 penalties. Dare I say some of Jeremy Crawshaw's punts. As my co-host at Orange and Blue Today would say, not great, Bob. Anyhow. Howdy. Little more light tonight on the other side of the room there, so it's not quite in the darkness here. On Denver football after dark. I made the mistake, by the way, of booking my flight back at 6:30 in the morning Pacific time. So I'm going to finish this up in a little bit and be packing my bags and going to the airport. This is an all-nighter for me. So let's talk about what we saw. Broncos 30, 49ers 9. The impressions, like I said, good, bad, and the ugly. The funny thing is, I mentioned the ugly, and the first thing I mentioned was the punting. The ugliest looking punt might have been the one that was 50 yards net and gross for Jeremy Crawshaw at the end, thanks to the penalty, but it had a sub 3.5 hang time. And it didn't get very far in the air. And there was a palpable groan among the Denver media and the press box when the ball went off his foot. So it's interesting when we see some things from practice manifest in the first preseason games and others that don't. Crawshaw's had a lot of missiles and then occasional bad punts. And in the preseason game, we just saw the latter. Jarrett Stidham, on the other hand, he's looked very good in training camp, and we saw that manifest in 14 of 15. The third year in the scheme for Sean Payton is translating for him. Now, Sean Payton, one of the things that has been interesting with him and backup quarterbacks over the years is that in the third year, they usually, or the second year, getting a year in, they usually go to another level. Experience helps. Teddy Bridgewater, he went in his first year with Sean Payton, played at the end of the season, didn't do well. The next year, he gets settled in. He's much better. Parlays that into a big contract in Carolina. Experience matters for not just the starter, but for the backup. So now Jarrett Stidham's in year 3, and you can see the comfort for him. You can see how quickly he's making decisions, how quickly he's delivering the ball, how quickly he's making the decision to scramble when it's there too. contrast that to the 2 starts that he made at the end of the 2023 season when he's taking too many sacks. He's dithering in the pocket. Now, certainly it didn't help that in that final game against the Raiders when he took a bunch of sacks. That was a game they played without Mike McGlinchey, and they had Cam Fleming at right tackle, and he struggled. The thing I said after that game was I think that game was going to make people realize just how good Mike McGlinchey was, and because they'd see how much he was missed because of how Fleming played in that game. And I think it probably told people that, hey, number 69 is actually pretty good at what he does. And certainly McGlinchey has stopped the revolving door that existed at right tackle. And that probably was worth every penny of what the Broncos have paid Mike McGlinchey the last couple of years. So anyway, that Stidham of that day in Las Vegas, that end of the 2023 season, I think that Stidham may well be a thing of the past now that we see him comfortable in this offense. So obviously the backup quarterback is break glass, pull handle. But in any given year, there's a 50-50 chance that your backup quarterback is going to have to play meaningful snaps at some point. It's basically a coin flip. So if that happens, based on what I have seen in training camp and based on tonight, but the broad sample size, even based on what I saw in OTAs as well, I feel much better about Jarrett Stidham being able to come in and give this team a fighting shot. It's the old cliche of saying, okay, if the backup quarterback came in, could the team go 500 in 4 games with the backup quarterback? I firmly believe that now with Jarrett Stidham, he's reached a point of comfort in this scheme. And the team has overall reached this point as well, but that he's reached a point of comfort in this scheme, and he's reached a point of experience to where I believe if he had to come in for 4 games, the Broncos could go 2-2. And that's really what you ask of a backup quarterback. Keep you afloat. I believe Stidham can do that. He can give you a chance. I don't think this is a situation where if something happened to Bo Nix, you'd say, oh, we're screwed. I don't think that's the case anymore with Stiddy. I mean, that throw to Trent Sherfield, I mean, that's a great throw. Doesn't matter that it's against 2s. That's what he did there, the placement on that. That's a terrific throw. Independent of anything else, just what he did there. It's a great throw. Nobody else had a chance at it, and then Trent Sherfield completed it with a terrific catch. Just at both ends of it. Great job by both. Tip my cap. So I wanted to kind of start there. Maybe, the good, right? I said good, bad, and the ugly. The good. Let's be positive here. Let's focus on that. I think the bad's obvious. I think the bad was right there at the start of the game. That the D that struggled in the last 45 minutes of the practice on Thursday went first in that red zone period, allowing back-to-back touchdowns. And one of them, there was some apparent confusion, miscommunication. Lavelle Bailey was kind of pointing. Seemed like he was expecting some help that didn't come. And then it carried over to the move the ball periods when San Francisco drove multiple times. There was one in the 2-minute. There was one that wasn't 2-minute, and they drove to a touchdown. And then, of course, the backups also drove to a field goal. So that continued. Jaquan McMillan beaten down the sideline for 50 yards. Then the Niners finishing the job in the red zone. So all of that we saw Thursday continuing into Saturday. So that's a concern that the Broncos could not put that behind them, that the first team defense couldn't respond. Now, then the next drive was almost like Nick Benito said, enough of this bleep. Back-to-back sacks, and it could have easily been 3 in a row. Like, that's what a great player does. It's at some point just says, I'm wresting control of this. I'm putting a stop to this. So it was good for him, and he had his way in a one-on-one matchup, and that he should have his way with it. He put Nick Benito against a backup tight end. He should feast, and he did feast. So he did what he was supposed to do there. But still, I mean, that's, when Sean Payton says average, below average, I mean, he's not wrong. I mean, he may even be kind when he says that. It probably, for the first team, was something way below average. When I was walking out of the stadium with a couple of the San Francisco reporters, I said, yeah, they might get read the riot act after watching the film. The first teamers, at least. There wasn't much to like, except basically Nick Benito taking control there at the end. I mean, did like Troy Franklin, the Franklin, the catch, a couple of the catches that he had from Bo Nix. Bo missed the deep one to Franklin, short on the jump ball to Cortland Sutton. That's not one that you're going to put in the Louvre for Bo Franklin or Bo Nix tonight. It's preseason game number 1. We've seen him make some plays in training camp. Tonight just wasn't there. I'm not sitting here and hitting the alarm bells just yet. Let's see what happens this week. There's a joint practice with Arizona on Thursday. Then there's a game on Saturday. So, it's preseason. There's time to work these things out. There's a few weeks until the regular season opener. So we can say what's good. We can say what's bad. We can say what's ugly, but we can keep it in the proper context. And I think that's the key. That's the way to handle these things. We can say what is working and we can say what isn't, but don't overreact to anything good or bad. What you do look for, though, is patterns. So, for example, Bo Nix has had a pretty good camp. I thought he had a good day on Thursday. So today, less than stellar, or I should say Saturday, less than stellar, because now we're on Sunday. So I'm looking at that in the context of what he's done overall. So I'm not sitting here and saying, well, I mean, let's hit the alarm button. I'm not mashing the panic button right now. And there's no reason to. You don't do that. But patterns, okay? Chris Abrams-Draine's had a really good camp. And Abrams-Draine had a terrific game on Saturday night. Has a pick. He's active. Makes another play on the ball. Pattern, okay? He's got a pattern. Jonah Ellis generates some pressures. Okay. Pattern. He's had a pattern of big plays. Q Robinson getting back to health. He gets out there. He has a TFL. We talked about all the plays that he made in OTAs, and then he gets injured early in camp. He gets back out there. So pattern, okay? pattern. If you're doing things more often than not, if you're making plays more often than not, most days, then that's a pattern of success. So those guys jumping into the notebook, making plays, that's positive. That's a good. That's very much in the good here. So Denver football after dark here on this Sunday morning. If you're in the Eastern time zone, 5:46. It's probably getting to be sun up there in the Eastern time zone. Victory Lap says, sign Benito ASAP on discount. I'm going to say this over and over. It takes two sides to make the deal. And if you're Nick Benito, if you're his side, the thing that does come into play is if you have a big season, how high can the salary go? I mean, obviously it's a risk because you could always get injured, but how high could he take that number if he pushes to 15, 16, 17 sacks? Does it go at least to Max Crosby territory? Does it go even higher? Like if he, let's say he pushes and has 18 sacks. If he plays the way he did tonight, just takes control like that, it's not inconceivable. Hate the double negative, but there it is. If he has 18 sacks, then considering it's his second contract, considering the pattern of ascension for him, considering that would make him almost certainly a first-team All-Pro, then maybe he does approach the Watt, Myles Garrett territory. So, again, takes two sides. And if his representation, his side, thinks, oh, if he plays this out, perhaps he can go to the stratosphere contract-wise, then that's the thing. It's not solely on the Broncos here. It's a negotiation. It's both sides involved. It's not as simple as saying, oh, the Broncos want to get it done. It gets done. It takes two sides working together. That is something that you have to note here. So anyway, so just bear that in mind when you say, okay, the Broncos don't have it done. Like it's not necessarily a matter of wanting to get it done. So, appreciate that, Rock Chalk. Some caffeine for the trip back. Well, I got a Diet Pepsi here. I have so much travel, not just for work, but personal travel as well, that I hit the Marriott level that gets me access to the club lounge here at the Sheraton, and it's across the hall, which means all I have to do is just stumble in there, and there's Pepsis and Diet Pepsis and whatnot. So I just went in there and got myself a Diet Pepsi and got myself some middle of the night caffeine. So, but I appreciate that because I probably will need some caffeine once I get into San Jose Airport. So thank you, Rock Chalk, and for that. That's much appreciated here in the middle of the night. Stiddy was steady. I'd say Stiddy was more than steady. I'd say he was stellar. Anyway, Pat Bryant. Some good words for Pat Bryant in this game. Able to move the chains, and he looked good. Yeah, the only thing working against him was the holding penalty on Jaleel McLaughlin's run. And man, you wish he hadn't had that because it did set up Jaleel to get downfield, but Jaleel also, man, that run, he breaks the tackle. Now, Jaleel talked about putting weight on and getting stronger, and he's up to 199, which is more than he's weighed at any point in his career. And a reason why he was putting that on, we all remember last year, he wasn't breaking tackles. Remember that run that he had against Seattle in week 1? He gets into the open field, and it looks like he's got a shot to go all the way, and then he gets hit, and he's like, it's like he was just shot out of nowhere, goes down. And that bothered him. So his point of emphasis was add some weight. So add some muscle so I can break tackles. And so it was right there. He broke a tackle. So you're watching that, and in my mind, I'm like saying, yeah, that's good. That's what you were working to do. And then the penalty took it away. So you're encouraged by that, though. And that's also something to consider. I mean, don't preseason game, don't get caught up in numbers, because sometimes numbers take things away because you have a penalty that takes away that play. But rest assured, the coaches see that and know, okay, that is a check mark in Jaleel McLaughlin's favor, right? So another play, for example, when, Blake Watson on the pass from Jarrett Stidham in the third quarter for 14 yards, and he does a whoop, he makes the guy miss, right? Beautiful, beautiful play. One of a cluster of really terrific plays for Blake Watson tonight. And unfortunately, it comes off the board because Frank Crum is called for an eligible man downfield. So doesn't go in the stat sheet, doesn't count for him in the numbers, but everyone in that building saw it. Everyone keeping track of it that matters is going to make note of that and say, hey, nice job. That's a moment that tells you you're taking the next step. All the running backs of those 4 that are battling for time behind RJ Harvey and J.K. Dobbins, all 4 of them had something they could hang their hat on in this game. So I'd say this is one where you look past the numbers and you don't look too much at yards per carry. Like Jaleel McLaughlin's going to say 1.7, and yet the moment that would have defined his night got wiped out by a penalty. Blake Watson, you're going to, you look at his, as I go through the game book here, Blake Watson's got 3 catches for 21 yards. Maybe his best play. You take out the 14-yarder. It's off the books. So I'm a numbers guy. I'm a math guy, but you got to look a little deeper sometimes in this. But all 4 of the running backs had something they could hang their hat on tonight. So that's pretty good. To go back to RJ Harvey, sometimes you just got to go up the middle. You got to go between the tackles, or you got to go immediately outside the tackle and not bounce it so far. Sometimes you got to understand that the shortest distance between 2 objects is the straight line and not the roundabout. So it's something he's going to have to learn, that these guys in the NFL are fast, and just because you could always beat everybody to the edge in the Big 12 doesn't mean you can get away with that in the NFL. You're not going to be able to always beat everybody to the edge in this level. So something he's going to have to learn, but he's a rookie. He's going to figure that. He'll figure that out. It's one game. It's one preseason game. So it'll be okay. So Denver football after dark here on this Sunday morning. Trent Sherfield looks like the best receiver on the field. Hey, looks like he should be playing more than perhaps the depth chart would reveal. What do you think of a rookie punter? Seemed a little nervous for his first taste of the NFL. Yeah, 3 punts. So the first one, 36 yards, 4.35 hang time unofficially that I had him for. And it's a net of 8 coverage breakdown. If you've got 4.35 on 36 yards, that's not something that should end up in a return. The general rule of thumb, as Tom McMahon once mentioned to me, was it's 1 second per 10 yards is what you're going for as a punter. So that would mean 4 seconds, 40 yards. So it's 36 and it's 4.35. That means Crawshaw's doing his job. The punt's down, it comes down at the 15-yard line, so it's inside the 20. So while you'd like it to be a little further back inside the 10, on balance, that would be considered, generally speaking, a successful punt. So not as good as you'd want, but it would be considered a success. Then the next one, it's short. It comes down at the 20. That's when you're like, okay, that needs to be better. You're going for a placement punt and it comes down at the 20. That wasn't good. You got to do better than that. And then, of course, there was the one that was sub 3.5 hang time and it's 50 yards. That didn't, it doesn't stay in the air very long. It wasn't a shank right out of bounds like the one we saw in the joint practice on Thursday, but not good. So, we've seen the blasts, and the funny thing is he was blasting them in pregame. In fact, when they were practicing punt returns, when the punt returners were warming up, it looked like the guys were getting a bit frustrated because he was punting them too far. They were expecting the punts to come down around the 50-yard line, and then they had to back up because he was punting them over their heads. So we're seeing in the warm-ups, he's just killing them, and then you get out there in the game and not so much. So I have to think it was probably nerves. It was probably something like that. Because physically, we know he can clobber it. We've seen it on a regular basis in practice, what he can do. But it did not translate on Saturday night. On Twitter, I posted the story of Pete Rejecki, the Buccaneers kicker in 1976, who said that kicking in front of the coach at the time, John McKay, made him nervous. And McKay was informed of this, and he said, well, that's a problem because I plan to attend all the games. Basically said that was going to mean he was going to have a short career. So anyway, I was probably more on the punting than a lot of people wanted to hear. So anyway, just got home from work. Good to get an update. Yep. Interesting game when you go back and watch this, I think. So just waking up, and what do my wandering eyes see? Mace Live, good morning. Good morning to you as well. Like I said, so late, it's early. It's about to be 6 a.m. on the East Coast. I've been talking for about 28 minutes. I've probably got about 15 more minutes in me because I do actually have to pack up, and then I'll be leaving my hotel room about 4, get to the airport about 4:30, and then I actually have a checked bag because I've been here for 4 days and I've got my video equipment and all that. So I had to check my clothing and all that. So appreciate y'all being here in the still of the night here on Denver Football After Dark, way after dark here, disseminating this preseason opener for the Broncos. 30-9, they defeat the San Francisco 49ers. Although, let's face it, the score irrelevant in the preseason. I think I say the score because I have to. It really doesn't matter. So Bo's here's one from Colorado. Bo's simply going to have to be better under pressure versus the blitz. Otherwise, there'll be a ceiling on the QB he can be. Yeah. How you do under the pressure and the blitz, if one of the things that great quarterbacks do is they make you pay when you blitz. I mean, what is one of the hallmarks of Patrick Mahomes and why he's a great quarterback? It is that he punishes the blitz. When you blitz him, his rating over the years, his passer rating is astoundingly good. The great ones punish the blitz. So Bo's got to get to that point where when you blitz him, you'll pay for it. That you try it because you got to roll the dice and take a risk, and occasionally it's going to pay off. But in the broad sample size, blitzing is something that will cost you. That's where Bo has to get to where over time, blitzing will be something that will cost you. Teams will do it because you sometimes have to try the gambit for the once every 8 or 10 times that it works. But by and large, a quarterback needs to get to the point where you pay for the blitz, that they attack, you read it quickly, you find the vacant spot, and then you got him. So appreciate you and being in Victory Lap. Good to see you as always. Go get some sleep. Are you concerned with Bo? No, it's a preseason opener. I've seen a lot of good things with him in training camp. I've seen him respond, step up in pressure, climb the pocket, throw into some tight windows. I'm not concerned right now. I'm not. So now, if he has a rough day on Thursday against Arizona and has a rough game next Saturday, again, pattern. If we see this pattern persist, then I think maybe you start saying, okay, there's some cause for alarm here. Maybe we are talking about teams figuring him out a little bit in the second season. So not on one preseason game here, not on one day. Let's not overreact to this right now. So I'm not going to say, I'm not going to be concerned. And I think Colorado, you've got this, I think, nailed. He'll be better. We've seen this throughout his entire career. He'll bounce back, focus on the patterns. Yep. Let's just kind of step back from the ledge here and let it play out. It's a day, it's a game. It wasn't the day that he wanted. He'll learn from it. I mean, look, Huff, a.k.a. Talanoa Hufanga, said it best after the joint practice on Thursday. I mean, you sometimes want to have some things go wrong now so you can learn from them. Better to have these things now than later. You can fix things now if they don't cost you today. You have these miscues later, they actually cost you something tangible. Today, it's meaningless. It's harmless. Doesn't cost you anything. So that's okay. It's perfectly okay to have things happen right now. So I wouldn't say Bo is in the ugly, but I would say the performance subpar. He can learn from it. He will learn from it. He will grow from it. But objectively, a subpar performance from him, a subpar performance from the first team offense. Subpar performance in terms of protection. Now, the Niners did throw some things at him. The play that led to the safety, you saw they brought the rush from the right and then supplemented that from the left. So they overloaded the right and then they had the extra rush from the left. And that was kind of, they overloaded the right, Broncos shade their protection to the right, then it's the rush from the left that kind of comes in isolated, and that's what ends up breaking it apart. So that's that's where Bo's got to respond better to that, because you bring that much pressure, something's open. You can't, it's the zero sum of football. If you're bringing that much pressure, something's vacated. And Patrick Mahomes, what makes him special is 99 times out of 100, when you do that to him, he finds it and he makes you pay. So you want Bo to ascend to that level of making you pay for such a gambit. That's what you want him to work toward. But Patrick Mahomes couldn't do that to this degree that early. It took time. It took experience for him to get there. So let's sit back and let Bo learn from this. Let him study the film. Let him grow from that. Look at how he grew from where he was week 1 last year to week 5 last year. He was a different quarterback by week 5. He was a different quarterback by week 3 last year from where he was in week 1. So this is where I'm gonna trust the process here. It'll be okay. Any injuries today? Well, we saw Calvin Throckmorton leave, flanked by medical personnel. So that was the one thing that did kind of jump out during the game. Let's see. What else was there? Matt Henningsen, of course. We did get the confirmation from Sean Payton after the game that unfortunately he did tear his Achilles on Thursday, so his season is over, and that'll send him into a long rehab, unfortunately, and it's tough for him. I mean, this is his 4th season, and certainly it was looking like practice squad for Matt Henningsen in all likelihood, kind of like last year. He was having a solid camp. Probably didn't look like he was going to be on the 53, but again, looked like he was probably ticketed toward the practice squad, or if not the practice squad, maybe could have landed with the Jets, and where Darren Muji is. We've sort of talked about there's going to be maybe a Denver Jets Detroit triangle because of the connections between the teams, between Sean Payton and Aaron Glenn and Dan Campbell and Darren Muji with the Jets. There's a lot of common philosophical DNA between those clubs, and maybe some players kind of moving back and forth. We've seen like Tim Patrick go to Detroit, for example. We'll probably see some players maybe from the Broncos end up with the Jets. So it wouldn't have surprised me if Henningsen, if he wasn't on the Broncos practice squad this year, if maybe he'd end up going to the Jets and actually being on their 53. So tough break for him. As smart a guy as you'll find, but he'll rehab, and I imagine we'll see him back out there training camp 2026, getting back out there and giving it another shot. So as the old cliche goes, it's the toughest part of the game. Guys get hurt, guys get injured, and but we'll still see him around. So, but at this moment, we don't know of any injuries to come out of the game just yet. So, talking about Bo Nix, still rocking back on deep throws. So we'll see. We will find out. We will see if he can grow on that. Now that being said, when you're off platform, you're not going to step into it. What you've got the key thing is if you have a clean pocket, you step into it. The worrisome thing is if you have a clean pocket and you're not stepping into it. That's the thing. If you don't have a clean pocket, you're going to throw off balance. That's just kind of natural. So that's something that's something to consider as well. That the thing I worry about is if he throws off platform when he's got a clean pocket. If he doesn't have a clean pocket and he's throwing off platform, that's a little bit more that's more acceptable. And that's where you do rely a little bit more on athleticism, and that's where he does have the ability to make some throws. And that, like, Sean Payton was talking about on Thursday, that's where some of the second act stuff comes in. They can make throws across his body and that sort of thing. And he does have some improv and athleticism in him. So anyway, Denver Football After Dark here on this Sunday morning. And I'm probably going to wrap this up here because it is time for me to get packed here in Santa Clara and head out to the airport and catch my flight back home to Denver. So appreciate y'all joining me here so late. It's early, 6:11 a.m. Eastern Time, 5:11 Central, 4:11 Mountain Time, 3:11 here in the Pacific Time Zone as I wrap this up. So whenever you've watched this, whether it's live and on delay, appreciate you joining me here for the good, the bad, and the ugly. I don't think Bo Nix's performance was ugly, but I'm not going to say it was good, but it's something he can grow from. The good, bad, and the ugly of this 30-9 Broncos win. The score was good, but I think we can agree that the overall performance for the team, especially the first unit, working against the 49ers backups, it wasn't good. The score, not something that I'm terribly concerned about. But Jarrett Stidham was good. Chris Abrams-Draine, Jonah Ellis, Tyler Bidet, Blake Watson, some spark from Audric Estime, Trent Sherfield, Pat Bryant, Troy Franklin. These are some of the guys who were good. Courtney Jackson on one punt return, he was pretty good too. So there were things on which you could hang your hat coming out of this preseason game. It wasn't all bad. So, not a bitter taste, not a sweet taste, and just a taste. Sort of like when at one point on The Simpsons, when they're trying to figure out if it's a happy ending or a sad ending, and Marge just says, "It's an ending." Maybe that's what this game is, on balance. It's not a happy ending. It's not a sad ending. It's an ending. It's an end to the first preseason week. And on to the second week, the next Broncos practice open to the public on Tuesday morning out at Broncos Park, powered by Common Spirit. And, of course, the joint practice with the Arizona Cardinals on Thursday morning. And then preseason game with the Cardinals, the preseason game number 2 on Saturday. Home game number 1 for the Broncos in the 2025 season, the 2025 preseason at least. So appreciate you joining me. Like, comment, share, subscribe. If you've enjoyed this, tell your friends about this little test kitchen channel that I've got going here on YouTube. Join me and Cecil Lemmy on Mondays, 5 p.m. Mountain Time for Orange and Blue Today. We'll break all things Broncos down. We'll have a show on Monday. I may have an After Dark on Sunday night. I don't yet know, have not decided, so might come as a surprise. Depends how I'm feeling, depends how much sleep I need. So appreciate you staying up with me, or maybe just waking up with me whenever you watch this. Thanks for dropping by. Thanks for chiming in and talking Broncos. Leave some comments here if you want to get in on the chat whenever you watch this. Appreciate it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time here on my YouTube channel and also at denversports.com and on the Denver Sports YouTube channel. Take care. Thanks for watching, and enjoy your Sunday, everyone.